our focus for 2.5, 3 years now. A little story of how we got connected. We met at Southeastern Seminary in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and we're headed to India. That was the plan with the International Mission Board. And we had heads just filled with great knowledge of God and His mission and hearts that were on fire, but we had no idea how to actually do anything. And so weren't trained, weren't really doing a whole lot when we were there. We were doing some stuff with refugees, but just didn't have a clue. And so God ended up redirecting us to Africa for some years, and we just kind of plodded along. And by His grace, there was some fruit, not a lot, but some that's lasting. And now we've been able to train, and there's some stuff happening there. But we landed. God called us back to Raleigh. We thought to work within a legacy church, just a kind of a launch model church plant, with some friends, and we got back and just quickly realized, good grief, this is not what God has called us to do, and just had this, what does He want us to do? We don't know. And so a friend of mine, George Robinson, he was professor, mentor at school. He did our wedding. I think he was the one that sent us out to Memphis, and me and a buddy hung out with Zach and Ron in a coffee shop for almost 4 hours, I think. Just sitting there. And, I think you guys drew 4 fields on a napkin, and we didn't talk about any tools. There was just a lot of vision with stories, and we really left saying, "Yep, this is what He's called us to do." And so thanks for that. And then George connected us with Troy and Jeff, and then we got connected with Burke when Ron came to Raleigh in 2015, June of 2015. That's where we met, right? Mm-hmm. At that training. So they came and trained us, and that's where we got some tools and started rolling stuff out. So we're coming up on 3 years of going for it. So our kind of our context, we're, other than us, it's 100% bivocational. There's not any other full-time laborers in our network. Obviously, Burke has. You guys have some, but yeah. So that's been kind of what we've been working with, and we went to Fort A. I think several people were here at that one down in Florida. When was that? January 2016. Is that right? I think. And it was just so that we learned a lot. But one question that was asked was, "How many? You're here, right?" So we had kind of been moving forward a little bit and trying to sow seeds, trying to do some training within our church and within our networks, and the question was asked: How many people are hearing the gospel while you're here? I don't think anybody is at this point. So anyway, we just came back committed to train, committed to continue to just move forward ourselves, and it's been slow and frustrating at times, but it's been really, really good. I feel like we're in a season where we've seen just an exponential increase of seed sowing from a lot of different contexts, from our church, from our kind of our network, and then also from the seminary, from churches that we've trained that have kind of stopped at the seed sowing, disciple making. They haven't wanted to go further. A lot of them, and so but they're seed sowing, and so just seeing a big increase of that, and then what follows that naturally is just seeing more disciples made, seeing more people stick. We figure it takes about 80 gospel shares to see someone become for soil. Now that doesn't count what it takes to see them become a laborer from the harvest. Someone mentioned the time that takes earlier, and so that's a lot of gospel shares, particularly for bivocational people. And so just continuing to push that, and so then just steady stream of disciples, starting to see some generational growth with disciples, even some from the harvest now that have led people to Christ and are discipling and things like that. So that's progressing. Church, we've had church starts that haven't sustained over the last couple years. We've kind of pressed into our local church, which is simply that church plant that we came back to work with that died. And we took people from the harvest and people that stayed and just reset the DNA with Commands of Christ, and are pretty close to becoming probably four different churches that somehow relate together with a good mix from pre-existing believers in the harvest. And I think God has kind of kept some doors shut for us because He's wanted us to hammer out what this thing should look like in our context. And it's felt that way. And it can be hard. Like, come on, but He's like, I know what I'm doing. You don't even know what you would reproduce at this point. So I feel like we're really close to getting there, to taking that step in that fourth field. And so yeah, we've had, like I said, we've trained legacy churches. We've tried to serve a lot of the ones connected to the seminary. They wanted seed sowing, but not much more than that. And but we found laborers in those churches, and so that's been cool. I think you told us, Chuck, in October, just start training more. And we started doing that and have found a whole lot more laborers. And God's starting to raise up leaders across the triangle. We've been praying for cities and different people groups and things like that. And God, in the last 6 months, has been raising people up and getting us out of the way. And so that's come from training and just getting people out. So that's been great. Leadership development. A couple years ago, we launched our first residency within our small little church of probably 40 or 50 at the time. And it was just fantastic. I mean, we had people from the harvest, we had just bivocational Christians, we had seminary people that were already going to the nations but weren't really doing much there, and saw them leading the polys to Christ, in Raleigh, and just tons of engagement, training multiplied, character development and vision, and so that we just committed to do that. So now we're in our second year. We have 2 of those. I think there's probably been 30 to 40 people who have gone through that. And a lot of the leaders, the stay leaders, are coming from that, and also sending leaders, and so that's been really, really helpful. So that's kind of a tight picture. Would you add anything to that?
Just the buy-in in the seminary, even in the classes and stuff at the core fields and evangelism and discipleship classes has been cool to see that implemented.
Yeah, we've leaned into the seminary. We have great relationships with the president and others. There's like George I mentioned earlier is there, and he's rolling this stuff out really unedited in his classes now. And so just starting to see stuff. We're training a lot up there and starting to just get a better, reputation and relationship. So we're expecting big things over time from the school. So yeah, just lots of groups happening right now among people from different ethnicities, Muslims from Sudan, Indians. We got to baptize a Congolese guy a couple nights ago. Had about 30 Africans in our house. So just starting to move. It feels like for the first time, And so I think we need to. I told somebody one stuckage is me. I'm trying to figure out how to. We were talking earlier. Just raise up leaders, empower them, release them. What am I calling them up to? Being real clear with that. And so that's a stuckage. What else would you say? There's a lot.
Well, I think that's what's been really freeing in the last year or so is there's been a lot less heavy of a weight or pushback voices that I felt like that outnumbered a lot of it, and so a lot of what we were doing, so it's discouraging. As we see the laborers grow more, the excitement, encouragement, the doing of it just helps everyone, especially amongst families. Full-time people with his family who's a dentist, the mom homeschools 4 young kids, and they actually just foster to adopt a 12-year-old, which is just about 5 months older than their oldest child, and it's a big challenge, as you can imagine. And I think someone in here, I don't know who it was who told Justin, and anyway, pass it on down, what we seem to be true is how those on your residency or team, whatever it is, how a crisis of faith is so good and so strengthening for...
Steve Addison said to pray for crisis for all the residents.
Yeah.
in the course of a year.
Which is hard. I hear
That's what he
that.
told me.
And so here's this,
Just a crisis.
to
in
pray
their
for a
life.
crisis in their life and see how they respond. And if it's like, peace out, this is too hard for me. I got to focus on my family. I got to focus on this and can't be on mission anymore. And that happened in our church. It wasn't necessarily a crisis of faith. It was more just I can't do this and be a mom, or I can't do this and whatever. And now you have a lot more who are, crazy things like that foster boy is, having his one leg over the banister, I'm going to jump. And mom's like, and so I went out sharing, or I had this lady over that evening that I'm training and equipping. And so to see how they respond. And that same week, in the midst of such chaos in their family, the dentist is mowing his grass and saying, and God gave him a vision to reach all of eastern North Carolina. And he's printing out all the counties. We're praying over all of them. He has it all figured out and going hard after it. And so that's just exciting to see how, even though it sounds horrible to pray that, but we feel that in our own life.
Yeah. All the things listed are stockages for us too. Time, especially time commitment, tied to follow up and the time it takes to just disciple people and get them from lost to labor. It's just a lot of time. So. We have a nonprofit too that we rock in the summers, teach people to swim, gets us in communities. And from last summer, there's a church, another legacy church partnered with us. We were able to train them a little bit. And from that, there was a handful of people come to faith. There's a multi-ethnic church that meets in an apartment complex now, from that kind of that entry strategy of the swim training and releasing that church. And so they need some training, but they're kind of going for it. So.
Well, you guys went door to door,
Yeah.
invite people to come, and you share the gospel.
Yeah, we prayed. No, we searched for houses of
Entry
peace.
strategy.
Yeah, Queso led a guy from Puerto Rico to Christ doing that at that apartment complex. And he said it was the first time he's had any joy in 14 years.
Wow.
She shared with him, and he came to faith a little after that, but she shared the gospel with him the first time. So
I would say a suckage too, how to model the messiness of yellow light discipleship and what that looks like, how to encourage laborers. The Lord's put on my heart that Luke 10:2, prayer that we do every day. I had seen that answer as being more gospel seed sowers as answer to laborers, but I'm like, no, that's not just a seed sower, it's a tilling the soil, going back and watering and checking and all that kind of stuff, more laborers. And so how do we model and encourage that kind of laboring that's to invite other believers into that. It's not some magical words that we say that people are following Jesus in one share, but it's a lot of laboring.
Yep. We've shifted a little in our training focus with plateauing, dying churches. The pastors there have been really receptive, as opposed to the booming ones in our city that have it all figured out and just want some evangelism tools. So we're just now trying to figure out what that looks like, partnering with
Mm-hmm. And shifting from, I think, just meeting with pastors, with some people in our residencies, to come out with me first. Now, go out and
filtering
first.
pastors.
That's been
come out and
helpful.
harvest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.